In the summer of 1992, Hugh and Olivia Crane and their 5 children, Stephen, Shirley, Theodora, Luke, and Eleanor, move into Hill House to renovate the mansion in order to sell it and build their own house, designed by Olivia. However, due to unexpected repairs, they have to stay longer, and they begin to experience increasingly paranormal phenomena, resulting in a tragic loss and the family fleeing from the house. 26 years later, the Crane siblings and their estranged father reunite after another tragedy strikes them again, and they are forced to confront how their time in Hill House has affected each one of them.
Okay, so I truly believe, I think A Haunting of Hill House is the best show I've ever watched. I'd say so. It was so good. It was terrifying. It was emotional. I loved every single character except for Stephen, but even then I still cared about him. But this show was so good. It kept me up at night. I think I've watched it 3 times through, and I sobbed. I sobbed many, many times. Also Theo, hot. Also Victoria Pedretti, also from You, protect her at all costs. So good. Also Haunting of Hill House is just way better than Bly Manor. Bly Manor sucked. Waste of time. I've started Midnight Mass, the 3rd show by Mike Flanagan. That's good. But this show, best. S tier. Best show I've seen. So good. I want to watch it again.
We have The Haunting of Bly Manor.
Whoops.
The Haunting of Bly Manor is set in a large and creepy house in the English countryside. It follows a young nanny who has arrived to care for 2 children. Danny gets hired by the family's Uncle Henry, who himself has his own demons related to the disappearance of his brother. Bly Manor is a giant burden to him, and he prefers to spend his time in his office alone drinking. From Danny's arrival, Flora and Miles exhibit different types of creepy kid behavior, but they've seen a lot, given that the previous au pair Rebecca died on the property 6 months prior. The 2 kids terrorize the extremely friendly Danny as she tries to get used to their frequently odd behavior.
Okay, Haunting of Bly Manor, again. I didn't really enjoy it. I watched the whole thing. You know what? I was entertained. I just didn't think it was that good, especially compared to Haunting of Hill House. Again, Victoria Pedretti, best part of the show. And the little girl who kept saying perfectly splendid. That was the best. The show, however, was not perfectly splendid. There was definitely room for improvement. I don't like that it all I can't ruin the show for people. I was gonna give spoilers. I won't give spoilers, but anyway. I didn't like the story compared to Hill House. Hill House, you cared about every character. This one, didn't give a shit what happened to anyone.
The series follows a young novelist named Emma who quits writing horror stories and decides to retreat back into her hometown. As she moves on, she realizes that the character in her horror story is slowly coming to life in the real world. From the premise itself, Marianne does a good job maintaining the horror aspect of the TV series and gives the viewers a gothic feeling. It also relates to writers and other creative personalities as it showcases common issues like not being able to write and considering failures in your own work. Only 1 season of the TV show was released with 8 episodes.
Marianne is, you know what, I'd put Marianne up there with Haunting of Hill House, but just slightly below it. Marianne was terrifying. It's a French show, so if you can do subtitles, you should watch this. But I do think they put all the horror elements at the beginning, like the outright scary jump scares, all at the beginning, and then it kind of fizzled out towards the end. Felt like I was just going with the flow at the end, but it's still so good. Very, very good. Very gothic. I like it. Hey guys, welcome back to Top 10 Central Dark, your place for all things horror. I'm your host, Susie McPhee, and these are the horror TV shows that are scarier than Squid Game. I mean, currently I think just 1 so far. Actually, no. I'd say most so far are outright more scary than Squid Game. I don't think Squid Game was scary, more so in like the concept of it. You know, dying is pretty scary to some people, whereas I'm like, I could go at any time. You know, who knows? An asteroid could come down. Oh, sucks. Can't be scared of death. How are you gonna live? You know?
Based on the 2012 novel of the same name. This gothic horror TV series revolves around the incidents of a fictional town named Hemlock Grove in Pennsylvania. The town has 2 main sources of employment, the Hemlock Acres and an Institute of Biomedical Research. In the premise of season 1, we see how 2 teenage girls are brutally murdered and how the people suspect a Romany boy who is secretly a werewolf. In season 2, we're introduced to a cult that's risen to destroy the supernatural creatures in Hemlock Grove and shows how people gradually lose their humanity over time. Even though the show failed to impress, it still did a pretty good job by maintaining horror through violence, and personally speaking, it has the same feeling as Twilight.
So I've never watched Hemlock Grove because the vibe it gives me is very similar to like that of the show Bitten or Vampire Diaries or Teen Wolf. That very like, even though it's not CW, but CW vibe where it's like, this is definitely catered to teens and not all audiences, and it's going to be relationship drama. Like, I don't care who you're at the end of the day. Unless it's Theo in Haunting of Hill House, then I'm deeply invested in her sexuality and who she's with. I just want her to be happy. She survived. She's fine. Living the dream. I mean, pretty cool, but it just seems very, like, teeny. He said it's very much like Twilight. I'm not here for that. That's not my vibe right now. So, I think I'll give that one a miss.
Slasher, an anthology horror Canadian TV series that focuses on a masked executioner who terrorizes his victims. Each season follows the story of him within its 8 episodes, but it all happens in different settings. The first season happens around the town of Waterbury and focuses on a serial killer known as the Executioner. The second season then shifts the focus to a group of summer camp counselors who are targeted by a serial killer. Then we have the third season focusing on a group of neighbors who witness a murder in front of their apartment complex. All of these seasons are loosely attached to each other, with the show giving more focus on its horror aspects rather than trying to establish a continued storyline. Critics have praised the show for its bloody violence and neatly crafted plot twists.
I think I'm familiar with Slasher. I've never watched it, but I want to say it's Canadian or made in Canada. And I only think I know of it because I think my friend Natasha was in it. She is in it. Okay, I knew it. I knew she was in it. Okay, that's the only reason I know, because she posted on Instagram. Okay, good for her. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I know. I only know it through Natasha. Sorry. I don't have much to go on, although I think my friend also watched it. I like slashers. I like Scream. What's another slasher? Halloween. I do enjoy a slasher, but again, in a TV show, I'm not sure. I'll have to check it out.
And as the name implies, it's sure to creep you out. Rather than following a linear plot sequence, each episode deals with a different incident and ends with the appearance of a mysterious man who covers himself with a mask named the Curious.
Ooh.
The Curious claims that he's a collector of stories, and each incident happening in the episode is a new story for him. With the setting and plot of each episode being different, you'll be introduced to a massive cast of interesting characters, each with their own unique situation. The directors have claimed that the idea of creating a man named Curious was to give the feeling of gothic horror to the series, and with him appearing at the end of each episode, we can agree they've done a pretty good job with it.
Ooh, I've never even heard of this show, but this looks very creepy. I'd watch this. Is it on Netflix? I see the Netflix symbol, so I assume it's on Netflix. Any horror with a masked man or masked killer, creepy. I'm here for it in a big way. Like the movie You're Next, terrifying. The movie Hush, well, he eventually took his mask off. But anyone with a mask, it's creepy. I hate that. Stop hiding your face. You're scaring me.
I mean, seriously racked up.
Stephen King adapted this miniseries from a Lars von Trier project, and with those two names involved, it was just as bananas as you'd think.
Watch for Mary. Listen for her bell. It's a death bell.
Taking place at the titular Kingdom Hospital, the patients come and go, but the enigmatic spirits remain as the mysteries behind them deepen. You never know what to expect with this show, since it can be funny in one moment and terrifying in the next, but it just makes the dread all the more palpable.
This, okay, I've never heard of this, but Stephen King adapted it from a Lars von Trier story, which is because Lars von Trier is not sane, and his movies are quite traumatic. They've really lingered with me. I remember one time I had a film screening at university, and it was a Lars von Trier movie, The Idiots, and that was the first time I've wanted to leave a movie by being so offended by the content. That was horrible. Do you want to know the premise of that movie? The Idiots is essentially a group of people that come together, pretend to have disabilities, and then have an orgy. No, it was just very offensive, very offensive. Half my film class walked out. I watched the whole thing, but it was very upsetting to see. It was like just very disrespectful.
Exorcist premiered, many were quick to write it off as an offering that would never measure up to the original film.
Pass. There will be guys there. Hard pass.
While it may not have achieved that nigh impossible task, those who tuned in were treated to a tense tale of psychological horror. Instead of trying to remake the classic film, it acted as a follow-up, telling a new story in the same vein and paying tribute to it just the right amount. Both seasons focus on different cases, but the first season, led by a captivating Gina Davis, deserves special praise.
There are things going on in the house. My house.
I didn't even know there were 2 seasons for the show. I did start watching, I think, a couple episodes of the first season, but then I fell out of it. But this is a reminder that I need to return to it. I also didn't know it was a direct follow-up. Well, it's not really a direct follow-up. Different story, different cast. Not really The Exorcist, just same kind of biblical themes. Power of Christ condemns you, you know?
The Paranormal Activity series, found footage movies were a dime a dozen. Fortunately, the director of the original movie, Oren Peli, was able to translate that genre to television with this little-known gem. The series followed a crew searching for a famous explorer who had gone missing seeking magic along the Amazon basin.
Where is it?
The river.
All I got is river. If it's here, it's under the water.
Its unique setting allowed for a wide range of horrors and mysteries, with wonderfully terrifying world building on an extremely personal scope. Combining the found footage genre with the exotic supernatural intrigue of its setting made for a unique viewing experience.
I love anything found footage, so I'll have to check this out. The River, I've never heard of it. I had no idea the Paranormal Activity director did that. That looks amazing. I mean, it's probably because I've never even heard of it, but I'll check it out. I love anything Paranormal Activity, even the movies down the line in the series, you know. They're crap, but I still watch them because if it's found footage, it still scares the out of me.
Penny Dreadful. Though critics and fans adored Penny Dreadful during its criminally short 3-season run, it failed to gain traction among mainstream audiences.
Highly impressive, especially your finale.
Well, you gotta leave them wanting more, as we say in show business.
The cast of characters consisted of both original creations as well as classic figures from fiction, including Dorian Gray and Frankenstein's monster.
My name is Dorian Gray.
Vanessa Ives.
The horror elements are interwoven into the story in a more elegant manner than most shows that deal with the supernatural, providing tightly plotted thrills and scares at every turn.
This is another one. I've been told so many times to watch the show. I should watch the show because I feel like I would love it. I get vampire-esque gothic feel to it. And Eva Green. Oh my god, she's stunning. I used to be obsessed with her after watching that really movie. What was it called? Dark Shadows. Did you ever see Dark Shadows? Her and Johnny Depp? Yeah, it was like a really vampire movie, but I saw it now. I was like, whoa. It's like, who's this woman? And then I watched everything she was in, but I have not seen Penny Dreadful, so I should probably watch it. Josh Hartnett's alright. It's a bit wooden if you ask me, but I liked him in Pearl Harbor. Cried when he died. R.I.P. Well, there we have it. Thanks for tuning into this video. I've been your host, Easton McPhee. Stick around for bloopers. Big fan. Gothic. It's a fact. I should be a motivational speaker. Yeah. Wow, Chris. That is not what I'm preaching, but you do you. You Google that. Slasher. Slasher. Natasha. Natasha. Yeah, there she is. Hit that. Yeah. You should look it up after. It's really and like just last one true, the way he films, it's very like raw. Like it feels like you're watching real life. So it feels very like you're involved. And I hate that. It feels like I'm a part or like I'm, you know, I don't want to be involved. So I had no idea the Paranormal Activity, I forgot the name of the movie for a sec.